we don't get many live matches. We only had a handful last year in SCL, for example, and they were always very exciting. But we've been downright spoiled in the Winter Cup. We are getting another live match today, this one between KrazyCaley and OpiWrites.
And any match with KrazyCaley in it is always tends to wind up center stage just because this is KrazyCaley we're talking about. But man, OpiWrites has made an incredible run so far.
Yeah, he's really kind of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, because you know how this works now, right? These players, they play all these replays, they watch all these streams, they play thousands of games in a month or two. And the next thing you know, they can compete with basically anybody, in a given match. And that's exactly the case with Opie. He's coming up on 4,000 games, and he's above what I like to think of as the threshold, which is a certain number of games beyond which you cannot safely assume that they don't know how to do anything anymore. I'd say about 1,500 games is probably the floor. If someone has more than 1,500 games, you cannot take them for granted against anyone else. Opie well above that point. Even against KrazyCaley, can't completely write him off, but we all know who the favorite is.
It's always basically impossible to pick against Caley, but Caley and OpiWrites are now in the match. So looks like we're going to be getting started sooner rather than later.
Yep. Yeah, I can whisper them and tell them to go whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, they're going to get started in just a minute. Caley won the coin flip, called tails, man after my own heart. You should always call tails, people.
Always
and picks the veranda venue set, and Opie, very, very unsurprisingly, picks the set with Tay N in it. And looks like we're going to start on Terrace.
You have to pick the set with Tay N in it against KrazyCaley. I don't think there's any other correct choice.
I agree. You got to lean into that variance, force him to play uncomfortably.
Either way, it is going to be Terrace. Any three started. Remember, this has 3 minutes now.
Yeah, that makes timer flirts possible. It makes frames a little easier. And it looks like from the mission setup, if it doesn't change last second, both statue missions.
All right, here we go. And we will be in there, starting things out with OpiWrites on the spy side, KrazyCaley on the sniper.
And we are off.
Opening up with the timer flirt, the quick flirt to start the game. It's a white test for 34%. Nothing too crazy, but still a relatively quick start.
Don't want to do anything too crazy against Caley. And yeah, not a timer flirt yet, but again, with that extra time, timer flirt's now viable on Terrace. It really opens the game up.
And we might just be getting one. We're hanging out here for quite a while, so it looks like OpiWrites just going to hang out here, but the seduction target does not feel like cooperating.
Yeah, and if that happens a couple times, you're in trouble. Once or twice, not too much of a problem. What I really want to see, of course, is what's Opie going to do for the third mission. Are you going to wait for AIs to complete? Notice Salmon has a fingerprint, for example, and the next bar visitor will as well.
3 very early lowlights for the sniper as well. OpiWrites really just chilling, not really doing much of anything right now.
Well, you can afford to do that and still finish late, especially if you want to do a walking bug or something, which I think Opie does favor a little bit on Terrace, at least based on the games I looked at. But I think he really, really, really wants someone else to complete. And I don't think these lowlights are normal. I think Caley might be tracking something here.
I think you very well may be right, because Caley, generally speaking, doesn't go for these sorts of lowlights until a contact comes off. OpiWrites picking up the briefcase for the first fingerprint, so that gives us some idea of where he's planning on going through the rest of this game, but we're under 1 minute and 30 now, and no completions.
Yeah, the second flirt's going to help a lot, especially if it's green. You can tell he's leaving his options open. He really wants someone else to get shot, but he can finish if he needs to.
Not a green test on the second flirt, so we're going to need to get it nice and close for the third, but we are in contact with a double agent here. Maybe about to come off. There it is. Seduction target splits, but does get low lit for it, so apparently it happened.
Maybe you got a better look than I did. I wasn't sure that Rocker actually split before the BB. It was very close.
Yeah, it was close. Caley certainly seems to think it was before.
Yeah.
But it looked like it could have been right on to me.
Yeah, very close and a little risky in terrace, but it's also not that hard to keep tracking lowlights even after they move around, kind of like on balcony.
Here is the last flirt at statue here. Remember, both swap and inspect are turned off, so this is not a suspicious place to be other than the seduction target.
Whatever the logic behind the low light, seems pretty obvious that if Opie does go for another fingerprint, that's going to do it. Instead, it looks like it's going to be a direct purloin.
Dangerous business, especially against Caley. He has the angle on the drink. No purloin.
Nope, it's a
Takes
fingerprintable.
the fingerprint from it instead, but it's not going to be in time. We're going to get overtime.
He'll shoot him.
Caley looks like he's lighting up the shot. 2 seconds. Does he get it
Oh!
off? He does not.
Wow!
And OpiWrites takes the first game.
That there are only a handful of ways you can feasibly beat someone like Caley in a competitive match, and scoring a spy win on one of these swingy maps at the very start of the set, that's one of them. That is huge.
That is a very, very big win for OpiWrites as he steps into the sniper side against Caley on the spy, who's already picking up his first green flirt at the window.
Yeah, you got to be really smart here. What's really interesting about that game, we don't have time to go back and look just yet, but I strongly suspect that that print was hanging out of that bar for so long that it was they just wasn't sure if it had happened yet.
It really looked like Caley was lining up the shot as well, but it didn't wind up happening. Second flirt has come off 89% off a little bit of a distance there. Flirt's looking really good so far. Caley making good progress and is in conversation with the double agent.
Yeah, it looks like highlights for bar visitors, trying to track that purloin really close. He knows that Caley's perfectly happy just doing the delegate and trying to force you into a 50-50 shot. Why wouldn't you?
Conversation's starting to fill up, but there are a lot of people at bar. We have to wait for people to step in the other conversation as well before the contact comes off. Now the other conversation's starting to fill up as well, but Caley doesn't want it. Not yet.
Does not want it yet, and probably the same thing. Look, on terrace, you want to give people opportunities to do things and see where it is. As long as you make reasonable flirt progress, you can do a mission or two in the last 40 seconds. It's risky, but in the meantime, maybe somebody does 2 prints or 2 statues, depending on what you've left on.
Seduce is done as well. We've still got plenty of time, over 1 minute and 30 remaining as Caley steps into the statue, which once again is off to get his first fingerprint.
Yeah, that's why he's going instead, but I think Opie's going to be on it.
You would have to assume.
Yeah, and you can see these highlights decay when the purloin doesn't go off.
In the end of red.
There's the contact coming off. Very good contact. Only a couple of lowlights available.
Yeah, pretty solid, but we have only a few people who are not low lit who could have done a reel.
We are 1 fingerprint away from finishing with 1 minute left to play. Caley's in a good spot, but he can take his time here. No need to rush.
Here's the question, though. Does he deliberately wait for a difficult print and have an action test potentially for the victory? That's the big risk right now.
Either that or he's just going to wait for the ambassador to finally decide to move and then pick up that briefcase.
Yeah, and it hasn't happened yet. Sometimes you end up waiting until the clock runs out.
Caley is realizing that's a dangerous situation, decides to move, is likely going to step in a bit closer to the ambassador here to force the movement. That's exactly what's happening.
Yep.
20 seconds left. That's plenty of time to get this fingerprint off.
That window delay was maybe 3 or 4 seconds. That is shockingly short.
I think he started talking instead of grabbing the briefcase. That's going to leave overtime open.
Here's the big moment. You got to do it. There's going to be a couple seconds of overtime here. Opie has to shoot an OT.
It's
he has
lined
to.
up. There's no way he's getting away with this. The shot has come off, and Opie starts the match off with a 2-0 victory on terrace.
Yeah, but those sniper wins are so automatic nearly on some of these other venues that if you give up just 1 game on your sniper side, you could be right back to deadlock. You need that margin.
True. Especially against someone like Caley.
Yeah, and Ballroom, for all the talk of Caley liking Library, his win rates on Ballroom were better last season. Ballroom was better for him overall. Seems a little counterintuitive, but that's what the numbers actually say. But it's still fair to say a little more likely to get a spy win off Caley on a venue like this. We saw in the quarterfinals, Noob won a game with a bug as Pearls on this very venue.
Well, Caley is a very creative spy player. It doesn't get said that often, but he really is. And this is very much a map that rewards creativity.
It also rewards aggression. Yeah, he can certainly. He gets a little bit of a bum rap. He's obviously, as we say, a good spy. It gets overshadowed because he's a better sniper. There's an instant purloin.
Oh, it's a white test purloin to open the game. I'm pretty sure Caley had a pretty good look at the guest list, though, so very few suspects at this point.
Yeah, I can see what's up with Opie there. He really wants to keep the pressure on, and if you hit an instant green, Memel 726 in the group stages won a game that way on Veranda with an early green as Smallman. I think that was the idea. It's just a little too risky, and there's so much occlusion on Ballroom. I feel like you're just going to get better opportunities for hardtails. You're going to get walking bug opportunities. I get it. If it's green, it looks brilliant, but you're really betting your game there. And in this case, Caley, I'm almost sure, is just going to wait and shoot.
I think so. He hasn't done that much reaction to the purloin, but I honestly don't think he needs to. He knows who his suspects are, and the less information you can give Opie right now, the better.
Yeah, and by the way, he didn't gulp. That was the big decision right there. Now he knows that he didn't start with that drink. I think he probably knew anyway, but that's always one of the big decisions, right? Do you run away from the purloin and gulp? Do you stay and gulp? Do you stay and sip? Do you play it cool? Opie's just going to try to look innocuous, I think, pretty much this whole game.
That seems to be the game plan. We've got the purloin right off the top. We've got a 51% flirt and nothing else to speak of so far as we step into Green Book.
Yeah, you're really at the mercy of the party here, too. Now, the funny thing is, if you wait a little longer on the purloin, it might be easier to catch, but then there's also less certainty about whether or not it was green or white, whether or not you missed a reject. This was so quick that it's going to be kind of hard for him to think that it was a green. So I don't really think he has anyone else in mind here. It's going to take an AI going to center statues, being in during the banana bread, and maybe taking a bug path to coax a shot on anyone else.
Yeah. Opie's certainly keeping his options as open as possible, playing for the flirt while he's biding his time here in case he feels like he needs to do some final rush, but I just don't know what he can get out of this.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's the bug that didn't even manage to take, but no. Caley's on it.
That's okay. You just can't give it away on the other side. You've got your advantage. Now you just need to be really tight on the sniper side, and that's the way to win. You sneak out the spy win. Caley's spy is good, but there are certain tendencies, and if you are on your game of sniper, you can theoretically win every sniper game against him.
Absolutely.
We saw it happen in SCL last year. There were a couple of draws where they were just pure sniper parties. Bloom and Caley went 12-0 in SCL in a match last season on the sniper side. That can work.
Caley?
Whoa.
Banana bread.
Contact comes off. What is happening right now, Track? I'm scared and confused.
I don't know. 5 or 6 lowlights available from that? Huh.
I can only imagine that was supposed to be a flirt.
Yeah, I think that might have been a misclick. I mean, look, they happen all the time. Even at the highest competitive levels, you'll get misclicks in almost every match.
So, Caley, not a great start to this game. Let off 4 lowlights. I think there may have been another available as well, but it didn't get taken. Yeah. This is far from over. Caley can still very much come back in this, especially if he hits this next green test on the flirt. But it's certainly not the start he wanted on the spy side.
Yeah, I learned the hard way in my match against Opie that if you are one of his suspects, if he highlights you, for example, he will watch you sometimes very closely, maybe even to the point of tunneling. Obviously, that's exploitable potentially, but if he's got it narrowed down and you're one of the people he's looking at, he's very good at tracking your mission progress.
Well, didn't hit the green on the timer flirt, so we're at 85%. Seduction target steps away. Just under 2 minutes to play now, and Caley's been playing this slowly.
Yep, he knows his reputation, and you can counterplay it, but Opie, of course, is going to be ready for that, especially on Ballroom. He did this on Ballroom as Irish in the Season 4 finals in his first spy game.
Nice long-distance flirt to finish things up. He didn't have to be close because of that first green, and he knows it. Minute and 30 left to play, 2 completions. It's gonna be a little bit tight as he steps into center statues here.
Now, it's just early enough that he might be tempted to go for the swap too, assuming that you're not going to get an immediate shot the way you would if there were 30 seconds left, although he's going to have to hit a bunch of greens for that. My guess is he's just going to finish it and try to plan the hard.
I think you're right.
Two whites.
There's the inspect's done.
Two
Does
whites.
get the statue down in time, I think.
You looked right, but boy, that was risky. That would have been quite a way to end the game.
Yeah, you do not want to go into that third statue cycle.
Purloin behind that conversation. Very hard to see. You'll only have 10 seconds. It's a powerful last mission. You might want to white on purpose. Nope.
I thought he was going to go for it. It would have been great to try for the green and dash, but it didn't wind up happening.
Opie's probably going to get you in that scenario. A lot of top snipers will, but maybe got a 1-in-3 chance, you know? It's a good way to put pressure on them. It's a good way to maximize your chances.
This Amba is making us very conspicuous.
Yeah, following us around as if we're the ambassador.
Yeah, exactly.
Here comes the bug at the end, I'll bet.
15 seconds. Amba's on the move. There's so little time.
Gotta hold this shot. It's gonna be tough with the reputation. What's he gonna go for here?
Well, it's gonna be overtime again if he gets it.
It's just gotta be a bug.
There it is, right on camera. No need to wait this one out, and that's just a shot.
Yeah. So definitely patient, you know, doing the hard tell last like that, already with a highlight. But I mentioned when Opie gets his teeth into you, he doesn't let go, man. He's a pit bull. Like, he's tough about that. You got to stay off his radar until most of the suspicious stuff is done.
And OpiWrites is still ahead, 3-1, as we step into Veranda.
And a pretty strong map for Caley, but again, I don't think as strong as people think compared to his win rates on some others. You know, we've seen some pretty significant spy wins against him on this venue. It's tough, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of cover. It's all about time.
OpiWrites
book cheese
immediately does the book cheese. It was on camera, but we have no idea where Caley's eyes are.
And there's no reason for him to shoot. Not in a competitive match, unless he's positive he's going to wait. And he's positive.
Nope. He's positive.
Now, look, I don't have a problem with these moves exactly, but I will say that the nature of Caley's game requires a lot of focus. And if you can draw the games out, especially on a busy map like Veranda, it will take its mental toll. Stamina is a thing, especially if the match goes long. So I think occasionally you got to make him work for these a little bit more, and it might pay dividends in the last few games.
That is a very good point.
And Caley's going to do the same thing, I think. He's going to draw this game out a little bit. He might be pretty active, but I don't think he's going to make it as easy on Opie as Opie is making it on him right.
Opens with that perfect distance at the window flirt there, 32%. Exactly the number you want to try to remain as inconspicuous as possible while still lining yourself up for the 3 flirt on whites.
Yeah, and by the way, you'll notice Opie is not highlighting for statues. He likes to highlight for completes. Inspect completes, which works, except that it means that he's offloading a lot onto his memory if you got a lot of one-visit partygoers.
Very true. And Caley, taking a slow start to the game once again, is chasing seduction target here a little bit. Does get nice and snuggly with her, though, for this next flirt, which is kind of required, especially now that he's gotten a white test on the second one, which brings us up to 66%, so we absolutely have to get close on the last one.
Yeah, Opie's just wisely pretty much conceding that. Where he's putting most of his focus is on the Ambassador and Purloin, and I think that's usually pretty safe. Most of the time, if you just really focus on Bug and Purloin, barring the odd bad luck with Occlusion, you're going to be able to cover most mission completes.
Well, Caley picks up a fingerprint from the green book, and he is staring down a statue where another one is available. I think he's just going to go right there and pick up the fingerprint as well as his first inspect. And he wanted to get 2 here, but Andrew Ryan wasn't having it.
Yeah, that's not going to work. But I think it's a little risky to be so aggressive about it, because if you space the fingerprints out on Veranda or Library, those kind of venues, it's really hard to catch them, especially when I mentioned that memory offload thing earlier. Fingerprint's the way to go, but by doing it so quick, much more likely you're going to get caught.
This is very true, and that might have just happened to Caley because the highlight does come off, and as you were saying, he doesn't generally highlight for the first statue visit. We're under 2 minutes now as Caley steps in for his final flirt here.
Yeah, this is such a busy party, though. There's a lot of movement. Look at all these highlights. So Caley doesn't realize it, but there's a decent chance if he can, like, sneak in a green Purloin or something, he's very likely to induce a civilian shot.
This is true. There's a lot going on here. Minute and 30 left to play. We've got 2 completions and an inspect. We do have the highlight, but there are a lot of those to go around. Caley is not in a bad spot here.
And I wonder if he's thinking BB, inspect, swap, minute left. Maybe they won't be watching for it too closely.
We shall see.
Inspect swap on that back statue set, so you have to loop all the way around and give up everything on the left, especially if it includes the ambassador and the guest list. That is hard to do.
Well, the double agent's not playing nice, so I don't think he's going to go for the swap here. Just grab the inspect, but
no!
a bad shot
There it
comes
is.
off.
Wow.
You were saying there was a lot going on in that party, and there was just a little bit too much for Opie to hold the shot on.
Yeah, and the advantage is given back. You're still tied. You're not down, so not too bad. But you've now split the set. But remember, this was Caley's set, and he's split it.
That is true.
That's a big one. Yeah, so now we're going to go on to the second set. There's going to be another Softail variant. There's going to be Taen. Taen is so random sometimes that even if you are one of the best Taen players, at least according to the Taen tournament, where OpiWrites was the runner-up, it's going to be hard to rely on a 2-0, but he might be at the point where it's either going to be overtime or a 2-0 like that. But the only other map he gets to do that on is the Softail variant, which obviously had a lot of success on with Terrace. But yeah, I think that game, he had pretty good control of it for a while. But the nature of the highlighting strategy and a venue that busy is that sometimes you're just going to have too many suspects and have to remember too many things.
Well, you got to remember, Caley said this himself. The problem with going for the Taen set is at the end of it, you got to pay the piper with that library.
Yeah. Again, I think the library reputation is outsized to the results. He's very good at it, to be sure. But I'd rather face him sometimes on library than I would on Veranda, based on past results at least. So, yeah, you do have to pay the piper. Put it this way, you probably want to be at least tied heading into library.
This is very true.
So we're probably going to have a really good idea of what's going to happen before that. Looks like they're talking about the venue order right now.
Yeah.
So we'll find this out pretty soon. I'm not sure what that shot was for. I guess someone who just could have been done. Willing to credit Caley with quite a bit on Veranda. But I think, in retrospect, maybe not super confident about the fingerprint or just didn't think it was enough. This is a problem for OpiWrites, though. He basically always shoots. Taen's going to be first, by the way. Wow.
Yeah. Opening it up with Taen. This is a very, very difficult map for snipers in general, especially those who try to camp, which, as we know, is KrazyCaley's wheelhouse. This is absolutely the best chance Opie has, or anyone has really, of picking up a lead against KrazyCaley.
Yeah, and this game in particular, right here. He's still got a lot of options, if he loses it, but this is one of the most important games probably of the entire set.
Opening up with that close white flirt, as is standard operating procedure for spies around the world.
Yep, pretty much. And on Taen, there's no reason not to, especially with the ambassador out front. By the way, that's one way you can get unlucky as spy, is if the ambassador hangs out at windows a lot.
Look at who the ambassador is as well. It's Smallman.
Yeah, you're leaning into it. Obviously, you like to have him in the party, but having him as ambassador is pretty freaking brutal. Opie, though, not in a great place for Bug. Caley keeping an eye on that. I don't know if I would take it if I were... There it is.
Well, he got it. It was... I don't know, like, Caley, you could tell he was looking for it, but I don't think he saw it.
I don't know.
He does get a highlight there, so he's certainly suspicious.
And so does Wheels. I think what Caley's doing here is he's highlighting people for very plausibly missed bugs. Now, there's going to be a lot of those eventually, but maybe he's just highlighting the ones that are particularly good, and one of them's just been knocked out.
Yeah, that's a big... It was such a good contact for everything except for the fact that it knocked out Wheels.
Well, I think the SDA, were they even in? Because Caley assumed real and low-lit several people, I think.
Oh, that's true. I wasn't paying attention. I just assumed he was.
Well, so they usually are, is the crazy thing. I think the conversations were almost full. Maybe 2 people were out, but one of them was the SDA, and that is really going to narrow the party. If he goes to center statues now, I think he'd die.
Oh, man. Opie, so much of this game he's doing right. It's just not lining up for him so far. It's
Caley,
far from over, but it's a difficult situation.
Caley's making some assumptions about how people normally play Taen, and they are, so far, correct. Opie in particular has some pretty strong tendencies on this. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the next game too, where they really come into play. But so far, again, I don't think I would do that if I were him. You've got plenty of time left. You need one flirt and then one of any other number of missions. And I feel like at this point, given that what Caley has said publicly about Tayen, I don't think Opie's going to want to go to statues. I think he's going to want to try to do one of those impossible to see purloins after the flirt is done.
I think you're right. Minute and 5 left on the clock. Ambassador's getting snuggly, and Opie doesn't want any part of that.
It's going to be statues after all. He does not like that ST being uncooperative. Nope, side statue, but it is a fingerprint.
It's a fingerprint on the side statue. So evidence is starting to build up against Opie here. There's one other highlight in the party.
Yeah, it's not good, and he has not been moving around nearly as much as Opie has either.
Stepping back in to finish the flirt here.
I think he's really going to look for a fingerprint instead of an inspect.
I think so.
And it's going to be that book, isn't it? He's going to wait and try to do that book. I think Caley will get him. This is a big moment. Here we go.
Here it is. No, he just goes for the briefcase!
Wow. I don't think it would have mattered. I think they both happened right in front there.
Yeah. I don't think it would have mattered. I think you're right, but KrazyCaley picking up the game on Tayen from the sniper side. Opie played a good game there.
Yeah.
It just didn't line up for him.
He played an excellent game, but he had to get his fingerprints almost back-to-back. The only thing separating them was entering a conversation and talking with 6 seconds, which is more suspicious. So it was 3 or 4 suspicious things to end the game. Only 2 highlights. Basically, Caley decided to go all out on a couple of assumptions, and both of them were right.
As much as Opie played a good game of Spy there, Caley played a very good game of Sniper on Tayen. And now KrazyCaley is on the Spy side of Tayen for the lead.
White time ad. Let's see if we get a reaction. Nothing yet.
Oh, the bad entry, though!
It doesn't look too bad on Tayen.
Especially because he redirected to the briefcase.
Yeah, let's see. It's hard. I mean, you can think you have a good sense of pathing, but there are so many weird stops and bumps and bug paths and everything else.
Gets the bug off. I don't think that briefcase was a legal briefcase. It was really close, but it's so hard to tell on this map.
Yeah, I think that was another kind of like questionable split-second decision, kind of like when we saw the little problem with the potential misclick on the BB on Ballroom. I think maybe what happened there is, you had the error, and he thought, well, if I turn this into briefcase shenanigans, it looks a little better. That's going to knock out 3 people, by the way, including a statue visitor, that banana bread.
That's true. He knows he's very visible here, so being a white test contact was actually very helpful to him there as the ambassador sidled up next to him, and he could just display very openly that he wasn't doing any bug.
Now the Amba is being very nice by picking up a side statue, so if you want to do a fingerprint, you don't have to risk a center statue visit, and I think that's going to be the plan. Dare him to remember the fingerprint, try to finish the flirt. With that time ad, you've got plenty of time.
Oh, Seduction walks away from him. We've still got the 48% from that first one, but 48 is not enough for 2 flirts.
No, it's not. And Caley's not done yet, so if he does suspect him for that time ad, and remember, there was nobody else at Windows, Opie would theoretically still be able to get him, but I'm worried that he's actually behind.
Yeah, I think so. I think Caley's in a very good spot. Second fingerprint has come off. There's the highlight. Caley doesn't even try for any inspect.
Now, if he doesn't shoot him for the next talk, that's very significant, because as far as we know, he could be done with 48%. It's going to lose the flirt. He needs 2 flirts anyway, though. Now, the thing is, though, again, OpiWrites could not be confident that flirt is not done with the talk is the thing, so the fact that he hasn't shot yet is really significant. I think the only way Caley loses this is if he has to chase that seduction target all around.
I think you're right. He's still got 2 minutes to play, so there's plenty of time. This is going to be such a hard shot for Opie to take. How do you win this?
You just have to, well, I mean, I think if you were going to shoot him, you would have shot him already. Again, you need to get lucky. The seduction target has to bail, and he has to chase.
82% on the flirt, minute and 35 left to play. There's so much time. He can just timer flirt right now, and even if the seduction target bails at the last second, he's still comfortable.
I think what we're seeing here is that Caley is going really hard on fingerprints, and Opie is just not quite tracking them enough. Not quite well enough.
It almost felt like one of those early rush, and then when the sniper doesn't have enough to shoot for, you just coast into the finish line with the flirts.
Yeah, a little bit, but that second fingerprint, that wasn't there that long. Yeah, this is probably going to be that's really unfortunate. It just comes out of fingerprints. Even in the veranda game, he obviously didn't really notice the fingerprints that much, or didn't put enough stock in them. It's just missing the fingerprints. You have to credit the bug. There's a time ad early, talking during BB, all that stuff. He knows he's not done with inspects, but he just obviously missed a print.
And KrazyCaley sweeps Tayen.
Yeah, that's a little rough. It was all just game plan there, daring Opie to catch the fingerprints, which he didn't. And I think that might be 4 in a row. Is that right?
I think so. Caley has a lot of momentum behind him here, and Opie needs to make something big happen on.
Yeah, and this is actually, of all the 3-5 variants, I would say the hardest to get your spy win on.
It may very well be.
I like this. So turn off bug, lean into the frame, give AI's chance to finish fingerprint or inspect, and leave Purloin in your back pocket.
That's a very good way to do things, because if anyone finishes missions, they're gonna get shot, whether it's Opie or not.
Yeah, I understand that bug is a great mission. It requires so much attention, and on a lot of setups, I would want to keep it on. But I think on pub against a sniper who's very good at catching bugs, it actually makes sense to turn it off.
And once more, Opie starting things off with the close white flirt, and then a white time ad at that window. Does Caley see it?
Terrible. No,
we're getting low lights.
No, that's really bad. You don't even need it. I mean, so I get the logic. He's saying if I get away with a time ad against Caley, if I get away with a time ad, the odds that AI is complete goes way up.
Yeah, that's the idea. The idea is hopefully he's not watching for the time ad early, and it'll give so much more opportunity for AI to finish. But Caley is very good at watching for time ads. It's another hard tell that you don't have to do. So
while it's not as easy maybe as on some venues to catch the time adder red-handed, it's actually way easier than most to get a lot of lowlights, because everybody outdoors like that, you can just lowlight like mad.
Absolutely. And now, even though we're already on 68% on the flirt, with 3 minutes and 5 left to play, look at this party. It's down to 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's that tiny little window on the
fake contact, I think, had the suspected double agent in.
Yeah, that's not great. He doesn't realize it, but instead of trying to make it so that a lot of AIs can complete, he's down to needing just Teal to do it, and I'm not even sure that would be enough.
Oh boy, here we go. There's the flirt done, but I don't know if it's gonna matter.
I don't either. I don't think Opie has any confident way to assume that Teal is the person he has to frame either. For banana bread purposes. Like right now would be the time.
Yeah, I think Opie is just going to very obviously do absolutely nothing at all and hope for the best. I think that's been his game plan the whole time, which means if Teal does go to statues, then maybe.
Yeah, you're gonna need to get that fake in. It's gonna have to be at a good time, and he has no way of knowing. Here's the thing, by the way. Even if he delegates to the right person, the fact that he's the one walking up to her, that alone is going to be enough for Caley to shoot for. Again, that's assuming that he's not even sure who did it between Seek and Teal. Much more likely that he has a leaning towards the actual time.
It is going to be Teal, it looks like, which
all
is
right.
This is either brilliant awareness or brilliant luck, but either way, I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be enough, because he's the one who came to her. Even if he nails, the talk or the timing or whatever, the BB helps. This is getting a little more interesting. I still think it's a long shot, but he's making the most of this frame attempt, and they both leave.
Well, I think Caley's absolutely going to be watching this like a hawk.
Yeah, I think he's going to shoot Opie too, because Opie's the one who went to him, seemed to have more control over it, and my guess is, again, he probably doesn't have it down to 50-50. It's probably more like 75-25 about that time ad. It'll be immediate, I think, once this happens to Seek.
I think so.
It didn't happen. It didn't take in time.
It didn't take? Oh
wow.
My gosh.
And we've got 50 seconds left. What's Teal going to do? Oh, she has a drink now, too, so if you were hoping she goes to statues, you've ruined that.
I like how it still says mission win pending, even though it's not anymore.
Yeah, there is a slight bug with that, with the spectation, by the way. It doesn't come up very often. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he just goes to statues and takes a shot.
I really don't like the time ad there. I think if you have a sniper who doesn't have a reputation for catching time ads really well, that's fine. And I don't mind leaning into the 50-50. I just think at that point, unless you time the time ad perfectly so that it really is 50-50 and he's not sure who did it, I think you just want to give AIs as many opportunities to complete as they can without giving him those lowlights.
After the time ad, Opie played an amazing game there. It was too much to overcome. And now KrazyCaley up 3-6 on the spy side of Pub. Opie has to win out to force overtime.
Yep, this is well, he's got two. Yeah, he's got a sniper game here first, which certainly helps. It's really going to be about can he win that next spy game that he really needs to on Library. That's going to be the question. But first, you can't blow it here because if an AI completes and there's one at statues already, do you shoot or not? That's going to be the question. But yeah, this is Winter Cup Finals point for Caley.
Man, KrazyCaley is on fire with these action tests right now. Another 51% flirt to open the game.
Now, they don't matter too much on the 3-5s or the 10s or anything like that. They're nice to have. They let you plan, but those are the kind of setups where you don't really need them that often. However, on the 3-5 variants, we've talked about this in some of the other Winter Cup casts, if you 2-flirt right to start and then BB and go to statues and there's 2 minutes left on the clock or something, that is a much harder shot to take even though you could be done.
Absolutely. Well, there's the 2-flirt. Where's the double agent going? Ah, she's going inside.
That ruins it, but here's the thing. When you do 2-flirt on those 3-5 variants, that's your decision. Do I just hurry up and rush this thing and say, go ahead? Do you think I 2-flirted? Are you really confident about that? He might go to statues first.
He does indeed go to statues first. Big highlight, but it's a good situation.
Yeah. And Caley hopefully is paying at least enough attention to see that there have been 2 other statue visitors. He really wants to wait, if he can, and get at least one of them in with that banana bread, force him to make that coin flip.
Absolutely. Double agent is at the bar and along with a lot of other people, so who knows when she's getting free.
Yeah, and you've got him about a minute and a half, and you're going to try... See, here's what he's doing now. What Caley's doing right now is he is building his AI credential resume for the banana.
Yeah.
Because you have to wait anyway, right? So might as well. Now that the DA's in, fine, go kill a little time. I'm not sure if that idol was dead on or not, but Caley's going to go kill a little time. And look at this. Both of the other statue visitors are in there with him. This is perfect.
Incredible. How does this happen?
Sorry, RNG. I mean, that part. Obviously, he can choose to be in with one of them, but the fact that the DA entered on their own with 2 others is insane. Rocker splits and does the 360, and I don't know if a shot's coming off.
Caley on the river in Pub gets the win over OpiWrites 7-3.
I mean, I would feel worse for Opie there if, for example, he had shot someone and they were the wrong person, because he's in a very tough position there. 3 people could be done in the same conversation. The fact that he didn't shoot anyone, though, means that that luck probably didn't help Caley as much as we thought it was about.
This is true. That said, though, like, Opie put up a strong showing.
Yeah, no, he absolutely did, and he started off 2-0, though.
I know.
And then lost, 7 of 8. That's not something you can afford to do. I think, really, I mean, obviously he did what he had to on Terrace, gave away a couple games otherwise, just a little too aggressive on Sniper, which is something I know he wrestles with. He is a very aggressive sniper, and when he's on, when it works, it looks brilliant, right? That's the way it is. But every now and then you give a game away, and we certainly saw a little bit of that today. But it's obvious the big turning point was losing both games on Taeyeon, Caley making big assumptions that were both correct, that made the spy game very losable, where it otherwise would have been very winnable. And then Opie on maybe 1 game, possibly 2, just not tracking those fingerprints efficiently enough.